Okay, well, welcome everybody to this March meeting of Mumbles Community Council. Before I get into the full agenda for the meeting, as we normally sort of do, we have had some questions we posed to the council. So what I propose is we will do as we normally do, in as much as we will go to point 6, because I will be covering some of the things in point 6, which refer to some of the questions. And then I will suspend the meeting to open it up to questions from the floor, as it were. Is everybody okay with that? Ian?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. You're excluding the press and the public. I thought it was the HR matter.
Yes, just on the last item, the HR matter, because we're talking about a contract, the details of a contract, and there'll be commercially sensitive information we'll be talking about.
You think that's sensitive, do you?
Well, to be honest, I did discuss it with both the clerk and the RFO, and I'm operating on the advice that particularly that came from the RFO.
Yeah. It doesn't seem to matter. There always seems to be an occasion that we're excluding the public. But, you know, if they're giving legitimate and bona fide advice, well, fair enough. But we just seem to be going down that hill all the time instead of going up the hill.
Well, before I bring Rebecca in, I will remind you, Ian, that if we discussed something and put something out into the public domain that would leave us open to liabilities, if I hadn't followed the advice, or we hadn't followed the advice of the RFO, I'm sure you could understand that we would be well open to criticism in that situation. So in this situation, as I should have said, I've sought the advice of our professional member of staff, i.e. the RFO. That was the advice that we were given. For me to go against that advice, and you know, it is a decision the council can make today, go against that advice, but I as chair would thoroughly counsel against that, because what is the point of having professional members of staff to give us advice if we then ignore them?
Well, I agree on that point very much. Yes, just like every occasion that we go out for a consultant, and then we pay them and we get their advice, and then we don't take any heed of it. So it does make a bit of a change if you are going to listen to your one of our principal officers. But you know, at the end of the day, you know, this information will go in the public domain. It's just that you're saying it's not going to be available tonight, correct?
Exactly. Whenever we discuss something like this, as I'm sure you're aware, Ian, these do go into minutes, as is always the case. So that would be the case. Rebecca Fogarty and then Richard.
Thanks, Chair. I'm not really sure why we're having this discussion now. This decision to go into closed session will be put to full council vote at the appropriate time. We've got a whole agenda of public items to get through first. So can we make a start on those? Yes,
I think that's a very good point. Richard?
Yeah, we've got what you're saying there, Chair. My experience is, meetings I've been on, very often we've asked the advice of Steve or Paul during meetings, and we followed their advice. That is my experience.
Well, yeah, again, as I sort of said, but you know, bearing in mind what Rebecca's just said, if we don't follow the advice of our professional officers, then we're leaving ourselves open to all sorts of accusations. But anyway, moving on quickly, declarations of interest. No declarations of interest.
I've had apologies for absence, Chair, from Philip Reason.
Yeah, I was going to say we don't seem to have that, do we? Oh yes, we have apologies for absence. I missed it. Just from Philip Reason then, is it? Okay, so if we could note that. So then minutes of the monthly meeting held on the 8th of February 2022.
Sorry, Martin, just a personal interest in the finance report, so I'll step
Sorry.
out for that first section as I usually do.
Okay, sorry, so Clark, could you note that?
Yes, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. So minutes of the monthly meeting held on the 8th of February 2022. Any observations? Are we all happy to accept that as a valid representation of what was discussed there? Yes, I can see that that's being accepted. Okay. And then could you hear me now? Sorry, I think it cut off then. 2022 as a true record. Okay. So then if we move on to the clerk's report then.
Yeah, I've circulated my report with the minutes, with the agenda. Is there any questions on that?
Any questions for the clerk's report? Okay, then, so we'll move on to the chair's report now. As is my way, I will read the chair's report. Okay. By far the most positive bit of news that I want to share with Council this month is that the skateboard park, which we all know has been many years in planning, has finally cleared another hurdle after the deadline for the submission of the further judicial review expired. As we all know, following the previous judicial review process, there was then a 3-month period during which objectors could challenge the decision. But that window has now closed, and we have been informed by Swansea Council that Swansea Council have confirmed that they have not been notified of any legal challenge, and therefore we are now in a position where the Community Council can sign the lease with Swansea Council and issue a notice of intent to our chosen contractor that the first stage of the project can proceed. On a personal note, I think this is a very welcome piece of news, which means that once again, we have overcome a significant barrier that has been holding up the skateboard park. Hopefully, we can now press on with the development of this much wanted facility. However, on a more negative note, I have to report to Council that we have been contacted by Audit Wales in relation to both the skate park and the Underhill development, following correspondence received from a local resident. This is a disappointing development, particularly at this time. While I fully understand that we must be open to full scrutiny, this will be yet another barrier for us to overcome this late in the day, having been open to a high degree of scrutiny in the past on these projects, particularly through the judicial review process. Additionally, this will further increase costs as we will be liable to audit costs, and there is potential to not only delay, but also potentially jeopardize our lottery application, the proceedings of which are currently on hold, particularly if the audit process is not completed by the time that the funding board meet. If this happens, obviously it will have a knock-on effect to our other planned MCC activity. Although I am confident that we should not derail the skateboard park project at this late stage, as we already have the funding in place, hopefully this will be the final hurdle. I am pleased to report that during the half term, our family fun days were a great success, and I would like to express my thanks and gratitude to all those councillors and staff who ensured that these events went without a hitch, and I think we should all congratulate ourselves as a council to the success we have made of these events, and with the coffee mornings as well. Okay, any questions on that? Rebecca?
It's not a question so much, Chair, as I just wanted to put on public record our thanks to Steve and Paul as our officers who are having to handle the requests for information from Audit Wales. As you have said in the past, and as I'm sure we all agree, you know, we're not afraid of this level of scrutiny because we know that everything has been done in a way that is above board and according to due process, but it does involve a heck of a lot of work to be involved in an additional audit. So I just wanted to put our thanks on record to the officers.
Yeah, very good point, Rebecca, and I know that both the clerk and the RFO have been working very hard to ensure that the relevant information is provided. Carrie?
Yeah, just clarification on the lottery. It's not actually on hold. It is on the agenda for discussion at their meeting on the 23rd of March, subject to the Audit Wales report having been completed, or that the lottery fund is satisfied that there is nothing to be concerned about in their findings. So as far as we're concerned, it's gonna be discussed on the 23rd unless we hear otherwise.
Yes, okay, fair point, Carrie, and thanks for clarifying that point.
That's okay.
To be honest. Any other points, any other questions or anything anybody wants to raise? If not, then I will, with the blessing of council, I will now suspend the meeting, and that's correct, Steve? You're on mute, Steve.
It's adjourn the meeting, that's right.
Adjourn the meeting, sorry, yeah, adjourn the meeting, get the words right. And we have received 3 questions from Louise Thomas, and I will read the questions and then provide the answers to the questions. Yeah, but a lot of the answers to the questions I've provided in the statement that I've already just made, to be honest. So the first question is, can MCC now confirm if Audit Wales have contacted them over the finances of Mumble Skateboard Park? They have, and they've also contacted us over the funding for the Underhill development as well. Can MCC confirm whether financial reports have been sent to Audit Wales? I can confirm that all the documentation and the clarification that Audit Wales requested has now been forwarded to Audit Wales. Can MCC confirm when recordings of the latest meeting are going to be available to the public? If you don't mind, can I just hand over to Steve maybe on this, because I know that there are some points maybe he wants to make, and then I will just clarify a few things at the end with that.
Yeah, as some of our correspondents will know, there are ongoing technical problems with our provider, because when the meetings are finished, the beginning bit is sort of chopped off, and they add a little thing to say it's MCC and so on, and that gets put to YouTube and so on. Because they're such large files, they take up a lot of space, computer space, and time and bandwidth, and it doesn't matter for someone like me who's just using Word, but because they're using high-end equipment for their design and so on, which use a lot of bandwidth themselves, they're finding that they can't do their artwork when these videos are being uploaded to YouTube. So we're trying to find a way around that. We are very aware. I've gone through we've got a list now of all the missing videos from the last since January 2021, and we're going to make sure that they are put up there over the next few weeks.
Okay, just before I bring Sarah in, I would just like to make a comment on this as well. I just want to remind people that it is not a statutory requirement for us to provide these video recordings. It was a decision that was made by Mumbles Community Council, I think some 2 years ago now, to provide these recordings. But if for some reason, through technical issues or through through just resource issues, i.e. our staff are busy doing other things because they get other demands on their time. It doesn't follow that we are trying to hide something. All that it is that we're having these recordings exist. And as I sort of said, we still produce the minutes, what we are statutorily required to do. The recordings are something that we decided to do because we felt it would make the proceedings of Mumbles Community Council more open to public scrutiny. But at the same time, if we're experiencing those problems, it is not that we're trying to obfuscate matters. It is simply that we are experiencing either resource or technical issues. And to be honest, I think it's a bit rich, to be honest, when this is used as a stick to beat us as Mumbles Community Council. Okay, Sarah?
Yeah, like you, I think it's a bit rich because we pay quite a lot of money, I believe, to get
Yes.
this stuff done, which we don't have to, but we do because we want it out there. And I don't understand how, if they're so professional, that they can't sort it and do it on time. I'm bewildered.
Well, you know, this is it. But all I'm sort of saying, it's not us obfuscating matters. It's not us trying to hide anything. And as I sort of said, there is no statutory requirement for us as a community council to provide these. The statutory requirement is that we provide minutes, which we do, and we do those in a timely manner. Okay, anybody else? Okay, are there any other questions from the floor? Okay, if that is the case, then we will reconvene the meeting and we will go on to point 6, which is the financial report. Steve?
Yep, bear me a moment, I'll just take you through that. If I, Rebecca, I'll just put you in the waiting room then, if that's okay.
Bye-bye, Rebecca.
Okay, yes. Okay, you'll see the list of electronic payments for retrospective approval. Any questions on those?
I'm gonna look at them, I can't see anything. Anybody else?
Obviously, Chair, they were on the agenda pack, so
Yeah.
we'll have plenty of chance to have a check. Likewise, the Barclay card purchases. Any questions on those?
Pam Erasmus?
Sorry, Chair, do I need to, should I have declared an interest here?
Steve, can you advise?
Report.
Why, because of the book tokens?
Yeah, I'll put you in the waiting room, Pam.
It's part of my allowance. It's not personal money coming to me.
Yeah, but I suppose if we're okay in it now, well, yes, I suppose there
I'll
is.
take your advice, yes, perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Good point, Pam.
take advice from me rather than the chair. If you recall, when you were, because you've been council for a long time now, you remember there was the RBL checks and there was some advice following that from the Ombudsman, very similar to this, so it's just reimbursement. But they said you should, you know, leave the meeting. Yeah.
But I didn't spend my money. Paul paid for them. So the money's not coming via me. It went directly to Paul. Whatever.
What? But it's showing you as the payee.
Oh.
It says Councillor Pam Erasmus, gift cards, 1625. So presumably Paul has paid that money into your account electronically.
Forgot about that. I forgot about the cards. Thank you. Sorry.
Because we did have a question about that before, I seem to remember, Steve.
Yeah, as I say, that experience with the Royal British Legion and the
Yeah.
advice that was given them, because they had it was a written investigation, you know. So
Yeah.
Okay. So, Chair, if you could ask Council to approve those payments.
Yeah. All those in favour of okaying those payments? Yes. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and there's just the three elements that I'd like Council to resolve to note the rest of Paul's report, which is our income, our bank balances, and the budget monitoring the report that's part of the finance report. So if you could put that to Council.
Yeah, okay, are we happy to accept those reports? Yeah. Okay, yeah, everybody's nodding, thank you.
Okay, I'll just let Rebecca and Pam back in.
I'm back in. Okay, we're all back in the room. So, going on to recommendations from the Community and Social Development Committee, the Jubilee Arch recommended that MCC pay for 1, planning application if needed, 2, installation, add to insurance and cover maintenance. Rebecca, are you the one talking to this?
Yeah, I can do. Thanks for the opportunity to give a bit more detail on this. So we've been approached as Mumbles Community Council by Mumbles Rotary. They would like to do something to mark the Queen's Jubilee and had the idea of installing a galvanised steel arch somewhere in Mumbles and running a schools competition to ask young people from the area to design pictures of sort of notable events from the Queen's reign. And then the winners of that competition would have their picture kind of wrought in this galvanised steel and included in the arch. They were approaching us really because they wanted to, you know, have it somewhere that's in the public domain. They wanted to ensure we were on board. And I also brought in Councillor Langston as the ward member for Oystermouth as well to ensure that he was in favour, although of course it will be installed after the election. So we've had an initial meeting with Parks. The location that's been proposed is the entrance to at Southend Gardens, where there is the War Memorial and other memorials. It seems a fitting place to have this. So there's a gate that goes into the sort of brick path area, and the suggestion is that we have the arch on the inside of the gate, so it's in the park, it's not on the highway, and you walk through it to get to the other memorials. I'm really pleased to say that since committee discussed this. The other important detail I should give is that Rotary, one of the Rotary members, I believe it is, has offered to provide the arch, do all the artwork, etc., for free as a donation to the community. So that's obviously a really generous offer. So the other piece of update that I can give is that since we discussed this at committee, Miles has been in touch with the planning department and has had the advice that we would not need to apply for planning consent for this structure, which is really good news because it just moves things along a bit quicker and also reduces the costs. So I would like that clause to remain in the proposal though, if that's okay, because as you know, planning can be a bit of a tricksy thing and it would be good for us to just have it as a backup. The Rotary have therefore written out to all the schools last week to invite them to be part of the competition, and have set a deadline of the 18th of March for a response to say yes, we would like to be involved. So things are moving along, and the one stipulation from Parks, they were very much in favour, you know, they're even happy to help out with the installation if we needed that, but they did say that Mumbles Community Council would need to be willing to take on any costs that might be associated with maintenance or repair. We're envisaging that this would be very, very minimal cost. The structure, although it is I'm afraid I haven't got the images to hand. It's not sort of heavy or bulky or, you know, particularly, I know galvanized steel sounds very industrial, but it's quite a light looking structure, but it is very strong. And there was an example given of one in the south of England that's been there for the last 10 years and looks the same as it did when it was put in. And it's put in with concrete, so, you know, that's also fairly robust. We anticipate that the only cost really would be associated with if there was any vandalism, which would be a very unfortunate event. And so that's why the suggestion is that we add it to our insurance, because then that would cover that eventuality. I think that's everything, but if there are any questions, then I'm aware this is the first time some councillors are hearing of this, so happy to take any.
Can I just ask, you know, from what you're saying, it looks like the cost we're talking is going to be quite minimal, is it really?
Extremely minimal, yeah.
Yeah, you haven't got any sort of figure, have you? But
I haven't, but the officer from Swansea Parks Department said the installation would literally involve digging 2 holes in the ground and pouring in some concrete. So, you know.
Yeah, and the insurance and that, as I sort of said, I'm sure it's going to be quite minimal, whichever way it is, because especially I think the big thing is going to be the artwork and all that.
Yeah, which is all coming into the donation. So yeah,
the Rotary Club are dealing with. Carrie, did you want to come in? No, she changed her mind. Okay, has anybody else got any questions? If not, can I put it to the vote? All those in favour? Okay, that's passed then, that's nice. Thank you for that. Questions to the Chair of Community and Social Development Committee. Any questions? No questions? Okay. Recommendations with the Finance and Compliance Committee. The Creatory Wales grant application. Grant application for £350 towards producing a Jubilee yarn bomb using funds from FC1 small and medium grants. Is Rebecca talking to this? Rebecca Child?
So
yarn bomb.
Yeah, you might have seen those little knitted hats on post boxes and things that people make. So it's sort of that what they're hoping to do is use this money purely for the costs of getting the woolen materials to actually make the stuff, and then do a sort of yarn bomb around the local area. If you Google it, there are more illustrative images than I can provide via description. But yeah, it sounds like a really nice idea. It's a very small amount, £350 they're asking for. And there was a lovely recommendation made, which is in the recommendation now, during the Finance Committee, that maybe they consider having like a yarn bomb treasure hunt or a little map or something. Because, you know, in other cities, there's, you know, in Bristol, there was like a spot every grommet from Wallace and Grommet, where there were loads of different ways that it looked, and different companies painted it different colours and stuff. But maybe there could be a way of making it a bit more of Mumble's celebrations, and it's definitely nice content for our social media accounts. But yeah,
and to be honest, they had something very similar. I seem to remember up in the pier that was. If anybody saw that, and it looked really good, I thought, to be honest. Like, anyway, anybody got any questions or anything that they'd like to ask about this? If not, can I just put it straight to the vote then? All those in favour? There we go. Oh, lovely. Right. Right. So this comes under the Finance and Compliance again. Mumble's first Scout Group grant application. The grant application for £18,800 towards completing the work at Sutton Hall, using funds from FC1 small and medium grants. Recommended the grant be made. Who is speaking to this? One of the Rebeccas? Okay, Rebecca Child.
Yeah, we need to get Rebecca Singh on this as well. Yes, so this is the last grant application. Obviously, the Scout Group have made 2 applications to us in the past, doing things like updating their toilets so they're not terrible, including adding disabled access to the building and to the toilets. So this is the final one really of the programme of works they were doing. I know we already voted on the last one, we talked about that a couple of months ago, but this is the final one, and yeah, the Finance Committee felt we should approve it. Just to clarify, I can see that they've asked for 18,800, but then the recommendation says 18,000. I think that might be a typo rather than we decided to cut 800. But I don't know if it's the same on your agenda.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, just
Okay, Ian, have you got a question on this?
Yes, thank you, Chair. On the application, the it's for £19,080, and yet they're asking now for
18,000.
£18,800, and then we're only prepared to give them 18,000. So what's going on?
Well, I think there's a bit of a sort of typo there, but if somebody could clarify, why there's a difference between the 19,000 then to the 18,500. Anybody can clarify on that, or nope?
is Steve or Rebecca?
I mean, I don't know for certain, but it's quite clear in the application that it says the amount requested from MCC is 19,080. So I suggest we just make an amendment to the recommendation to that effect.
It's 18,000.
It's not a huge difference.
It's 18,800. Yes, it's not a massive difference. Carrie?
No, it's not actually. It's 19,080.
That's what I said.
The actual amount on the grant
I've already
application.
said that.
Hold on, Ian. Right. So yeah, that's what the point I think that Ian is making is that the application is for that, but what we're being asked to approve here is, well, what we're being asked to approve is a grant for 18,000 to be made, but the grant application, there seems to be a bit of confusion here. The grant application is for 18,800. So
I don't know where 18,800 came from, because the grant application that I've got in front of me clearly says 19,080. Can we just put in an amendment that it's corrected to 19,080?
Can we do that, Steve? I think we can do that. That should be straightforward, shouldn't it?
Yeah, no problem at all. I think it's probably I transposed it wrong when I did the agenda for Rebecca's committee. Yeah. It's got 18,800 on the agenda for that, and that's why the mistake occurred. I'm not sure where the 18,000 comes from, because my agenda shows 18,800. But anyway, yeah, very easy to make the amendment to 19,080.
So if we vote on
that wasn't actually my question. It's not actually a question, it's a comment. Did we not get an invitation from them if we wanted to go and have a look at Sutton Hall to see the work that our money has been spent on? I believe that was an offer that was made, wasn't it?
That's correct, Carrie.
Yeah. So maybe we should those who are interested, take them up on that offer and go and have a look.
Okay, so can the clerks circulate this invite to the rest of the council?
Well, I did last week with their report.
Oh, right.
I thought some of you might have wanted to go before tonight's meeting, so it's already been done. So if anyone wants to go, let me know and I can arrange it with the.
Okay. So, if we vote on the amendment, which is for 19,000, how many hundred, Steve?
80.
£19,080.
£19,080. Pam, did you want to come in? You're on mute, Pam. You're on mute.
I had my hand up to vote.
Oh, sorry. Okay, then. So, if we put it to the vote then on the amendment, all those in favour of okaying the grant for 19,080. Okay, that's passed it again. Thank you. We don't have to go through the main thing, do we, Steve?
No, that's fine, Chair. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's just a correction, wasn't it, really?
Yeah. Yes, this is what I mean. So then the next point then is appointment of the internal auditor. Recommended that our RFO be empowered to appoint an internal auditor. I don't think anybody's got any questions or queries on this. If not, I think we can put it straight to the vote. All those in favour? There we go, that's passed again. Thank you very much. Questions to the chair of the Finance and Compliance Committee. Pam and Carrie, you both got hands up.
Shall I go first? Are we having to do this because Paul very professionally is safeguarding us and putting in extra safeguards because of the audit rules?
No, I think this is just procedure, to be honest, just general procedure.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, can I answer that one? Yeah, yeah. Normally, Paul will look at our internal auditor every 2 or 3 years. It so happens that the person who's been doing it is retiring this year, so this is why we need to appoint a new one.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, just we need an auditor. Okay, any other questions on that? If not, can I put to the vote all those in favour of the RFO being? Okay, that's passed again. Thank you. Questions to the chair of the Finance and Compliance Committee. Any questions? Pam, you still got your hand up. Oh, Rob. Rob, are you wanting to ask a question? Sorry. You're on mute, Rob.
No, I raised my hand to vote and it sort of sticks it up for me, sorry.
Okay, Rob. All right. So no questions for the chair of the Finance Committee. Questions for the chair of the Environmental Committee? No. Questions for the chair of the Culture, Tourism and Communications Committee? No.
Bloody hell.
Okay, so if we go on to point 15, this is an invitation that we've received from the Friends of Oystermouth Castle. The council accept the offer from Friends of Oystermouth Castle to take part in a guided tour of the castle with the view to exploring future potential for greater partnership working and plan accordingly. Rebecca and then Rob.
Thanks, Martin. Yeah, really welcome this invitation. Steve will remember that he and I did have some initial conversations with Friends of Oystermouth Castle a little while ago now, with the view to sort of establishing a bit more of a strategic relationship between Mumbles Community Council and the castle as our kind of jewel in the crown, as it were. You know, a massive cultural asset for the community. We at that time, it was because the grants process sort of came through Community and Social Development Committee, which it doesn't now, but we had sort of batted about a couple of ideas for improvements that Mumbles Community Council might be interested in funding, and the trail has gone a little cold on that, to be honest. So I'm really welcome this channel being reopened and would very much enjoy the tour.
Okay, I echo that as well. It's very kind offer that came by Michael Eames. Connie?
Oh.
Sorry. Then Rob, yeah.
Yeah, it's an excellent idea. As you may or may not know, we already have links with Friends of Oystermouth Castle with the Norton Nature Reserve, the Smugs project, because obviously that is located within the kind of, you know, environs of the castle, and part of what our thinking was with that is we're trying to encourage more people to walk from the castle down through the woods rather than them driving up to the village and walking in that way. So anything that you know we can do to kind of encourage you know, joint programs between MCC and the castle, I think would be fantastic.
Okay, thank you for that, Carrie. Rob, and then Will, and then Sarah.
Yeah, I agree with everything I've heard from the other two. You know, it's something I've spoken to Michael Eames about. in private outside of this. You know, we have a fantastic building there. We need to be making more use of it, especially in the summer months, and you know, putting on events that will help raise money to support the Friends of the Oystermouth Castle as well, and for upkeep, because I know that they are struggling for money for upkeeps and stuff like that. They do find the money, they're very resilient like that, but you know, anything we can do to help. It's the main focal point feature of the village, that and the pier, so I think everything we can do to help, we do.
Okay, thank you for that, Rob. Will and Sarah?
Thanks, Chair. Just to clarify as well, my internet keeps cutting out. So I'm on my mobile, then my computer, then back and forth. So if you wonder what's happening. Yeah, no, as Rob just said, I think that we need to make more of the castle, and these ties are great. Swansea Council did a independent review of the castle and the workings, and with the Friends group and stuff. I'm just wondering if they contacted the community council in any capacity at all. It's about 2-3 months ago. Steve?
Steve, do you know?
Not that I recall, no.
No.
Okay. I did ask them to. It might be worth following that up to see, because myself and Miles had a meeting with, I can't remember the chap's name now, but it was feeding in, you know, ideas for various things that the council can do better to work with the Friends group, and obviously a lot of the things I brought up was linked to the community council. So it might be worth trying to get a meeting with, you know, councillors and that person. So yeah, but great.
Well, I'll talk to you tomorrow then, and I'll double check whether we received anything, and we can sort that out.
Yeah, it could be good to, you know, getting this all linking and working together. Sarah?
Yeah, they were very, very helpful to me years ago when we were doing Wells in Bloom. Of course, the pandemic has put paid to that for a few years, with them opening the castle for us to take the judges around and have a look at it. And they've always wanted to have closer links with Mumbles Community Council. I think past councils have kind of kept them at a distance. And I think it's great if we could have a closer relationship, because we could help each other tremendously.
Yeah, thank you for that. Rebecca and then Richard. Rebecca Child, sorry, and Richard.
Yeah, just as a history nerd, I do think sometimes if you live next to something, you really forget how amazing it is that there's like an 1100-year-old castle down the road from where everyone lives, particularly with American flatmates in my first year of uni. I noticed how weird that was. So I love that we're capitalizing on it. I think it's really good, and maybe it's one of many Friends groups that we've got, you know, where we have a dedicated person who goes along to their meetings and things. I'm sure there are people probably in this group who already do, but it's such an important part of Mumbles. So yeah, thank you.
Good point, Richard.
I'm not going to just bump my gums for just the sake of it. It's all been said, but just for Rob, we have a lighthouse as well, and I'm offended on behalf of it. All right, guys, it's all been said. Yeah, great.
Yeah. Yeah, well, as I sort of said, I think there's just a general consensus around the screen here this evening. This is a good idea and a welcome idea as well. So if I just put it to council, all those in favour? Okay, so I will ask then that the clerk circulate the council and liaise with, well, I suppose Michael Eames and the Friends of Oystermouth Castle to arrange this meeting ASAP. And again, I would like to extend our thanks to Friends of Oystermouth Castle for this kind offer. Okay, so then if we move on to point 16, Mumbles Traders application. Using funds from SC1 small and medium grants budget, making a retrospective grant of 1,630 to put Welsh flags up in the existing Christmas trees holders and to change these in May for the Jubilee. Some of you will have noticed if you go around, particularly Newton Hill and around the area since St. David's Day, there's been Welsh flags in the area. They've even put daffodils, which they've strapped to the lampposts as well. So I think it was very, it looks very good. And this is what we're asking, that this be funded in retrospect. Ian?
Thank you, Chair. Well, I beg to differ, actually. I think the great idea, what's been done, the flags, excellent. Yeah, I'm all for that. Nothing better than the Welsh Dragon, maybe a saltire, but anyway, without digressing. The matter concerning the flowers, plastic flowers were tied to different posts and lampposts, were meant to be plastic-free mumbles. I thought that was it's a matter of taste, I suppose, to the individuals, but I think we can do a little bit better than plastic flowers.
Fair point, Ian, and maybe this is something we need to consider. Will?
Yeah, I think Ian makes a good point there, so I'm sure that's something we can pick up in the future. But yeah, I think it looked very good. I've had some good feedback from some constituents who liked it as well. And I think this is the sort of thing a community council should be supporting. So not ideal, it's retrospective, but support it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for that, Will. Rebecca? Fogarty?
Thanks. Yeah, also very supportive. Not so much of plastic flowers, it has to be said, but I'm sure we can address that going forward. I just wanted to pick up on that last little comment from Will about it being retrospective. I think this is the second time this year we've had a retrospective application from Mumbles Traders, always for things that we want to support. So I'm just wondering whether, following that previous conversation about strategic relationships with key partners, could we set up like a kind of quarterly catch up with Mumbles Traders just to get a little bit more sight of what their plans are, and then we can put the processes in place to not have retrospective grant applications, because we always want to be doing, we always want to support what they're doing and also want to have a presence and be able to promote and all of that. So yeah, just that point really.
I think that's a very good suggestion, Rebecca, to be honest, because one of the things I do sort of think about, there's a number of things that Mumbles Traders do every year, like the Christmas light switch on, which was, very good this year, and the car show again, which was very good. And I think, yes, we need to probably set up some sort of strategic regular meetings with them so that there isn't this funding things in retrospective, is that we are aware of what's going on in advance, they're aware of what's going on in advance, and rather than duplicating things year in, year out, we can come up with a strategic plan of how we work together going forward. Rob and then Carrie.
Yeah, I mean, we do actually have meetings with Paul. The problem is he had quite a lot of ideas, especially around the Jubilee and stuff like that. He didn't know whether to put in for grants or not. He's full of the ideas, but not always organised enough to get them in on time. But we do. Myself, Pip, and Claire and Martin have met with Paul to discuss plans like that. But I agree, maybe having more regular and committed meetings would be the way forward with that. But in a process, apart from the plastic daffs, I do support this.
Okay, thank you. Carrie?
Yeah, it's on a similar vein. I mean, yes, absolutely. I mean, they did look great, and I when I saw them, I thought, oh, good for the top shops. It's really good to see them putting those up. But I do have a concern, because it happens every time that we should be able to be putting this out on our social media and website, that we have paid for flags for the top shops. And every time, the request comes in late, and we, nobody knows that Mumbles Community Council are actually supporting these events. So I think we do have to find some way of being stricter with them and saying, if they can't get an application, they should at least tell us in advance and ensure that we have our name on these things that we are then having to retrospectively pay for, so that the publicity can go out jointly rather than us never being credited for things that go on.
Yeah, again, I think that's a very good point, and I think that echoes and chimes with what Rebecca Fogarty was saying, really. And I think, you know, we need to get Paul in really and read him the riot act, basically, I suppose.
Yes.
It'll
be like water off his duck's back, but it's worth a try.
Yeah, but I think if we keep on, you know, and he you know, he will have a motivation for doing this. You know, and I think we've just got to push it really, because you know, I very much take on board your point, and again, I think this is a point Rebecca's making as well, is we need to fit this in with our overall activity calendar for the community. And it can't just be, you know, something going off, like as you sort of said, we need to publicize it beforehand. And, you know, Paul's got good social media networks, but so have we. And, you know, and we need to sort of work together on this. So again, I suppose in a similar sort of way, what we're talking about with Friends of Oystermouth Castle, we need to set up stronger and more robust partnership working. And, you know, the whole sort of thing about the plastic flowers, which is a point, you know, very much take as well, is, you know, that is something that could have been, you know, probably done with the best of intentions, but, you know, is not fitting in with our wider strategies for what we want to see in Mumbles. So, you know, I think, and, you know, this would be a good time to sort of issue a slap on the wrist, as it were, and sort of say, look, this cannot happen again, like, you know. So with that in mind, are we happy to okay this? And then we will set up a meeting with Paul and all those in favour. Right, so purchase of hybrid meeting equipment. Steve, are you going to talk to this? Or...
Yeah, well, you'd have delighted to have read my wonderful report, Chair. So you'll be aware that we do need this equipment.
Yes. We've needed it for some time, really.
Yeah, lots of benefits but you know, an offshoot of COVID, you know, because it makes people from different circumstances, it's going to open up attending meetings and becoming a councillor. You know, perhaps if you're childcare and responsibilities, you know, people who find it hard to get around and so on. So there's very big positive things. I think I hedged my recommendations tonight. I said, because I saw how well the audio bit did, I said you consider, I would recommend you consider the one by AV Works or the one by Tech Interactive. Tech Interactive is a cheaper thing. It may be sensible to go with that because I think it's a slightly more simple system. And in a way, if you found it wasn't quite up to the task, a lot of what you're buying with that is usable if you upscaled. So your cost to upscale probably wouldn't be that huge if you felt you needed to later on. So I'd probably recommend going with a Tech Interactive quote.
Okay. Has anybody got any thoughts or any ideas or opinions this, Rebecca Hoggerty?
Thanks. It was a tentative hand, wasn't it? But you saw
Yes,
it there. I'm just apologies if I've missed this detail in your report, Steve. But is the proposal that we put this equipment in the minor hall or the main hall at Ostream?
In the minor hall, because that's where our meetings are going to be held, I think.
Yeah, I assumed so. I just we're a bit pushed for space in there, aren't we? And I just wondered whether it's all going to fit. But well, sure, we'll have to make it, won't we?
If you noted, well, I've spent a ridiculous amount of time trying to figure out how it would fit, and I've talked to the people involved as well. And that's why with the Tech Interactive, there's a particular wide-angled lens. So, okay. And if you see the actual recommendation, it includes buying 2 tables, a certain width to allow you. So it would actually be, as you go into the room, it would be on that wall that you're facing, and we would have the tables moving back into the alcove in a sort of U shape. and that's the best way of getting it in terms of being far away from the video, because you need to be reasonably close to the screen as well. So I've taken a lot of advice on that, and so it's not going to be ideal, but obviously when we get our stream, our proper meeting room done, then it can be done, much better. But we'll be able to meet in that way in the short term, easily enough.
Thanks. Could I just ask a quick follow-up, Martin? Sorry.
Yeah, sure.
That's really helpful, Steve. And I feel like if for no other reason than it comes with a wide-angled camera that's going to use our space most effectively, then we should go with that option. When you just alluded to the refurbishment of the Ostream and moving into a different room, I'm assuming this equipment can be reused in a new room.
Absolutely, yeah. The screens and the equipment is mounted onto the wall and easily just taken off and put on a new wall.
Yeah. Carrie, were you wanting to say something?
No, Rebecca has asked the exact question I was going to ask, so it's no longer needed.
Sarah Keaton.
Yeah, just to say, so we're starting back on having meetings soon.
Well, that's a different decision, but you need this equipment before you can, because you have to offer this hybrid thing where people can be in multi-locations.
I just wanted to clarify on that, Sarah, is that the directive that we've got is that we cannot go back to sort of in-person meetings unless we can offer the hybrid option as well, where people can attend remotely and in person. And that is why, this recommendation came out a good few months ago now, didn't it, Steve? And I am aware that other community councils around Wales are already in the process of installing this equipment. So, my feeling is I think we should just crack on and do it, because I think whatever system we go for, there's going to be pluses and minuses, and it's one of these situations I think we're going to have to learn as we do it, to be honest. But I'm more than happy to go with Steve's recommendation. But yes, we do have to have this option available before we can resume.
So could I just, one question then? Then it does go on then that we will be recording the meetings, even when we are having meetings.
Oh yeah, well again,
meetings. That's fine. That's okay.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. Okay, Pam.
I do agree. And if this encourages people who are carers and mums who have to stay at home and maybe disabled people to join the council and put themselves forward as councillors, the greater variety we have of people who are coming forward to be councillors, if this helps them, then I think it's a brilliant idea. We should go with the clerk's recommendation.
Exactly. So, as I sort of said, any other comments, observations? So if not, can I put it to the vote then for council? All those in favour? That's passed again. Okay, thank you very much. So then we go to the next proposal, that we exclude members of the press and public. So I'm
sorry, Martin, can you hear me? I've tried to put my hand up.
Steve, can you cut this off, please?
Absolutely ridiculous.
You are not entitled to speak.
I tried to put my hand up and you ignored me, so that's okay. That's fine. That's fine.
Steve, can you? Okay. So if we go to the exclusion of press and public, so if I put it to council now, are we happy to exclude the press and public for the consideration of the next item, which is appointment of HR services? And as I said, this is under